Good morning from the Hideway and also from the Bullitt County Historical Society. Today's Tidbit is sponsored by Claude Howard Lumber Company, Core Credit Union, and D&R Car Care. These are all very strong community members. Claude, Robert, and Ray are known for supporting so many projects in our community. This morning, we will be talking about 3 native plants that my daddy, Paul Franklin Jr., transplanted to our property here at 315 Savannah Avenue. When you mention azaleas in the South, we usually think of the pink and the purple and the white bushes that burst forth with amazing color every year around Easter. They don't last long. But growing up, you always had a family picture made in front of the azalea bed. We still have lots of these on our property here on the avenue, planted almost 100 years ago by my grandparents. But we also have about 20 or so native azaleas. Some of them Daddy and I transplanted from ventures taken along dirt roads in Bullitt County. I would hate to say that we trespassed, but we probably did a little. Native azaleas are deciduous. They lose their leaves, grow tall and airy, and bloom in the spring and summer. Here are 2 pictures of ones that Daddy and I brought home. They're about 35 years old, most definitely slow growers. They have tubular flowers with long stamens that extend beyond their petals. Native azaleas should not be pruned, ever. The pink one is the Piedmont azalea. The orange is called a flame. Let Mother Nature do her thing. The Botanic Garden always has some during their plant sales in the spring and the fall. Did you know that the native azalea is the official state wildflower of the state of Georgia? I didn't. Learn something new every day. Who doesn't love the dogwood tree? It is native to eastern North America, all the way from Maine to Florida, and all the way over to the mighty Mississippi. Old names for this tree include the American dogwood, white dogwood, Indian arrowwood, and false box. The wood is very hard and dense. Here is a pin that the city of Statesboro presented me from the wood of dogwood trees planted along Savannah Avenue. I just love it. The wood has been used for Indian arrows, butcher blocks, golf club heads, and the like. Native Americans used the bark and roots in a remedy for malaria, and it was also used to treat dogs with mange, which may be how it got its name. It's a deciduous tree, and it's relatively short-lived. Its maximum lifespan is about 70 years. In 1912, 40 dogwood saplings were donated by the United States to Japan in an exchange of flowers between Tokyo and Washington, D.C. While the cherry blossom trees survived and are now the main feature of the National Cherry Blossom Festival, all the dogwood trees in Tokyo died, except the one that had been planted in an agricultural high school setting. In 2012, the United States sent 3,000 dogwood saplings to Japan to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of the Washington, D.C. cherry trees. I would love to know where they planted them and how they are surviving. There's a wonderful Southern legend about the dogwood tree and Easter. It goes something like this. Carpenters 2,000 or so years ago loved to work with the wood that came from a dogwood tree. During this time, a simple carpenter was declared king of the Jews and was sentenced to death. The method of execution was crucifixion, and the cross was to be fashioned from the wood of the dogwood tree. 3 days later, when Jesus was raised from the dead, the dogwoods burst into full bloom, and they continue to do so around Easter every year. The 4 large petals represent the cross, and each petal has a red-tinged notch that is said to represent the 4 nail holes. The center of the flower is a cluster that is symbolic of Jesus' crown of thorns. Well, the species, Cornus florida, known to us as dogwood trees, is not native to Middle East, nor did it grow 2,000 years ago in this area. We still revere the beloved dogwood, and it reminds us of Jesus' love and his sacrifice. My daddy transplanted some native pawpaws to the Hideway about 40 years ago. We now have a colony of them. That's how they grow. They are small and deciduous and produce a large fruit, somewhat similar in taste to a banana, a mango, and a pineapple. Their leaves turn a wonderful yellow color every fall. However, we've never had any fruit here on the avenue. The earliest history that mentions the pawpaws in America is in 1541 in the report of the Spanish from the De Soto expedition. They found Native Americans east of the Mississippi cultivating what some have been identified as the pawpaw. The Lewis and Clark expedition ate pawpaws during their travels. Thomas Jefferson planted pawpaws at Monticello. Legend has it that chilled pawpaw fruit was a favorite dessert of our first president, George Washington. Pawpaws have never been cultivated for their fruits on the scale of those like peaches and apples. Peaches and apples were domesticated more than 4,000 years ago. Did you know that? I certainly didn't. Oranges are roughly younger, only 3,000 years old, and they are a hybrid of the mandarin and the pomelo. Now, might the pawpaw be subjected to similar selective breeding? If pawpaws had existed in Mesopotamia a few thousand years ago, they'd be in American supermarkets today. In the February-March edition of the wonderful Garden and Gun magazine is an article entitled The Pawpaw Pusher. It talks about a Quaker from West Virginia who has made it his life's mission to cultivate on a large scale the largest size native fruit in the South. I wish him well. On my bucket list is to eat a native pawpaw, and I hope it's sooner than later. They are now appearing when in season in some farmers markets along the East Coast. Hope we have one at the Statesboro market. Native plants are a passion of mine. More on this topic later in a later tidbit. Thanks and bye.